As Chris Boals neared retirement, he had his leisurely future all laid out. But a tragic accident involving his daughter and a DUI changed everything in an instant.
It takes one mistake and your life will be changed forever.
Rather than easing into retirement, Chris found himself navigating the criminal justice system and watched while his daughter was sentenced to prison.
If we can keep somebody else from doing this, then it'll be worth it.
How heartbreak transformed into healing and a powerful new purpose on Reinvention at Any Age. How did you end up in this kind of situation?
And that changed the whole trajectory of your life.
This is my light, and I'm going to let it shine. Even if it's uncomfortable, if the change is for the better, it's worth it. Don't be scared, prepare.
Reinvention is possible. Go make it happen for you today.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Reinvention at Any Age. I'm Amy Sweezey, and I am passionate about helping you navigate through your reinvention. My guest today was a business owner in his 60s nearing retirement when his entire life came to a screeching halt. His 27-year-old daughter caused a car motorcycle accident while driving under the influence of alcohol. She was eventually charged and accepted a plea deal for DUI causing death of a human in the state of Florida. Chris Boals' daughter Amanda is currently serving a 7-year prison sentence in Lowell Correctional Institute. His plans for retirement went from travel and working around the house to navigating what he calls a complex and confusing criminal justice system. As a result of his experience, Chris Boals started the nonprofit Family Justice Support Alliance, and he joins me today to share his story. Please welcome Chris Boals to the podcast. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Amy. It's great to see you.
So, before we get into Amanda's story and the nonprofit, I want to just start at the beginning so that listeners can kind of get to know you a little bit besides the intro that I gave you.
Okay.
I know you grew up in Tennessee, went to college there, worked for the Department of Energy, and then later NASCAR. So give us a little quick synopsis of who Chris Boals is.
Well, as you said, I grew up in Tennessee, go Vols. And and when I left college, I went to Oak Ridge, where you were told this is a job for the rest of your life. It was a government program and seemed to be going to last forever. Unfortunately, that's not what I wanted to do, but you do what you have to do. And then I had the opportunity to go to work for NASCAR first on a consulting basis. And after about 3 years of that, then I moved to Daytona and went here full time and eventually moved up to the executive ranks and so forth. But then I woke up one morning and said, I've been doing this 20 years now, and I'm traveling 200 nights a year, and I don't know what my room looks like anymore. So decided to start the business and did that for almost 20 years. Was in the process of selling and going to retire and do the things that retired people in Florida do. You know, life was going along fine. We used to have a saying in Humboldt or in Tennessee that we're just fat, dumb, and happy, and everything was going fine. And then one night you get woke up in the middle of the night and says, your daughter's been in a car wreck and she's on the way to the hospital. And all of a sudden the world changes.
No kidding. Yeah. And obviously I want to chat a lot about that. But even before all of that happened, you already had some experience with reinvention because you'd really reinvented your career a couple of times. You reinvented your life going from married to dad to now divorcee. So you've had quite a few reinventions even before your reinvention in retirement. What would you say to other people, especially about the career reinventions? Because I think there's a lot of people who, like you back in Tennessee, you're in that job and you're like, I'm going to stay here forever. What's your advice to them that when they're thinking, okay, I'm in this job, I really don't want to stay in it forever, I want to do something else. What should they do?
Lay out the plans the best you can into something that you want to move into or do differently and follow through on your plan. 90% of the people you talk to about it will say, no, don't do that. That's crazy. Do it. If it's your passion and something you want to do, take the risk and do it. And will it be easy? Probably not. but it can be much more rewarding than sitting in a place where you're bored for the rest of your life. And I never hesitated. Once I was ready to make the moves, I made them, and they were all successful.
So in 2022, fast forward,
Mhm.
you're getting close to retirement age, as you mentioned. You go to bed one night like any other normal night,
Right.
and then life basically froze in its tracks. So tell
Right.
me about that event that changed everything. What happened that night?
Well, it was roughly midnight, and but I was asleep, and all of a sudden the doorbell starts ringing, and somebody is banging on the door, and I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? And I've also, we'll throw another change in there. I've had a significant other for the past 8 years, and she's here with me, of course. So I get up and go to the door, and it's my son, and he says, "Dad, Amanda's been in a car wreck, and she's on the way to the hospital." Well, what happened? What do you know? I don't know anything. I just know that she's been in a car wreck, and you got to go to the hospital and see what's going on. So I pulled out of the driveway and called her mother, Amanda's mother, and said, "What do you know anything?" She says, "All I know is she's on the way to the hospital. I talked to the policeman on the cell phone shortly, but they didn't tell me anything except she had a head injury." So we drive to the hospital, having no earthly idea what's going on, and then we get to the hospital, and they take us straight back into her room, and it's mass chaos at this point, but there's a huge knot up on her head. And there are two policemen sitting in the room, which I didn't understand at all at the time. And so we get in, and first thing I do is check on her, and she's kind of dazed, but she's, talking and so forth. Her wrist is bandaged up, and her knee, and a few things, but nothing that looked to be life threatening. So then I turn to the policeman and say, "Why are you here?" And he says, "Well, she was in an accident, and we always come to the hospital with an accident victim and so forth." At that point, no indication from anybody that there was a potential DUI or anything such as that. We just thought they were there. And then within 30 minutes, that all changed. And we found at least an initial version of the story, which did not match the real version of the story, but it was certainly enough that it gave us some concern. This was on a Friday night. Saturday morning, I called an attorney because I didn't know what else to do. And he said, "Let me look into it. I'll get back with you." Interestingly enough, it took almost 2 months from the time of the accident before she was actually charged. So she had 2 months in limbo, if you will. Given credit to her, she said, I want to check myself into a rehab mental facility because she was suffering a lot of emotion and mental anguish and all of that because of what had just happened. And so we immediately took her in less than a week. She was in a place that specialized in both sides, both mental and the alcohol. Thankfully, alcohol, even though she had drank that night, alcohol wasn't a long-term problem with her. But so she was able to get the help for the mental and emotional and so forth. And I didn't even think about that when it happened. The first thing I thought about, I'm a businessman. I think about, the financial of replacing the car and all this. But then you find out that the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, everything goes upside down. And you don't know what to do. And there's not a lot of people out there that can help, because you eventually get into, not only do you deal with the mental issue and then the attorney, and then the law enforcement, then the court, and then the district attorney, and then the prosecutor, and then the hospital, and it's overwhelming. And no one there can explain the whole process.
I want to talk more about that process in a little bit when we talk about your, starting the nonprofit. But so was Amanda arrested right away? Like, did you understand at the hospital what was going on, or, was she taken to jail right away, or what happened with that process?
No, she left the hospital as soon as they finished with her. And we did not know at that time that there would even be charges placed. What the officers had told us is that there was a wreck, obviously. They were investigating the wreck. There was some rumor that the police were actually chasing the motorcycle rider, which turned out not to be true. So we didn't know anything. And she was not arrested for almost 2 months.
Were they waiting for blood work to come back?
They were waiting for blood work, test on the car, the black box on the car. They were also waiting to get the gentleman's name was Jeffrey Larson. They were also waiting to get all the information back on him. So it was just a process that I never knew there was a process. I thought if that happened and it was all true, you're arrested and that's it.
So it's 2 months later and she is finally arrested. Were you shocked, or did you have a heads up that this might be happening?
After dealing with the attorney, he indicated what was going on and kept us in the loop. And we knew that it was going to happen. We didn't know how long it would be. Coincidentally, she was still in the mental facility, and they called and told us she has to be, you have to turn her around, or we're going to turn her in, or we're going to issue a warrant tomorrow. So we checked her out briefly, brought her back. They booked her. She already had a bail set. We paid the bail, and she went straight back to the mental facility. So that whole process was 6 hours long, maybe 12 hours, not very long at all. And so we put her back to finish up her time there. And so this was in June. It was in January, late January of 2023, before the plea agreement actually was offered.
And how did that work? That was just attorneys talking with the family and kind of going back and forth?
It was attorneys talking. There was a court appearance basically once a month, which Amanda never went to. The attorney went, and I went to most of them, and it was basically case versus Amanda Boals. We'd like to continue it another month. Okay, it'll be set in a month. Bam, and that was it. You're in, literally, it was 10 seconds. And so that went on several months, and then she was offered the plea agreement in January. We negotiated some, and then she accepted that, and went to court then on February the 3rd of 2023. And that's when the judge accepted the plea agreement, and she was handcuffed, fingerprinted, and taken out of court. So that was it.
And what was her plea agreement? That was for 7 years in
That was
in
for
jail or
7 years.
prison?
That's correct, 7 years. And so different than Law and Order or Perry Mason, this court appearance where she accepted the plea agreement lasted probably 3 minutes. And there were at least 100 people in the courtroom, all in different cases. And we sat on the front row. Obviously, we wanted to hear everything. I couldn't hear 50% of what went on because of the attorneys talking and people back and forth that had nothing to do with that case. It was almost like an assembly line. And she was asked 3 or 4 general questions, and that was it. And out she went.
Your baby.
Yeah, that was definitely that was a lower point than actually finding out about the car accident. That was, we knew it was real, but that's when it was really real.
And when you're talking about these, 3-minute sessions with the attorneys once a month, and it was just so quick, I'm thinking, though, in the back of my brain, I bet it didn't just cost 3 pennies, though.
No.
You're ready to retire, and I've got to believe this is just an absolute financial.
It was, it was shocking. Fortunately, and I assume we'll get into this later. Fortunately, I was in a position because of my business and forth that I had the finances, but 99.9% of the people that Amanda's met currently where she is and that we saw going through the system at the same time did not have that. And it's hard. People get into the system and they don't see a way out. And it's hard. It's hard to get out, and it's hard to come back from that. And particularly if you're not where you can pay attorneys and do other things. And it's a very difficult situation, which is a big reason why we started doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and you mentioned the confusion that you felt. Up to this point,
Mm-hmm.
no one in your family had ever experienced anything with the criminal justice system. It's just like, and all of a sudden, whoa. So,
Right.
how would you describe that experience?
The indication I always give people is it's like going to Disney World and waiting in line to ride Space Mountain. And you get on Space Mountain and you ride it once. But then when it comes back in where they unload, it doesn't stop. It just keeps going. And it does that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it just keeps on going. And it's, if you've ever ridden Space Mountain, it's a thrill once, maybe even 2 or 3 times. But it gets old after a while. And, part of, again, riding Space Mountain is the unknown, because it's dark and you don't know where you're going. And that's what we faced every day. We knew something was going to pop up and it was going to be something different. It just, what's it going to be today? Is it going to be insurance? Is it going to be district attorney? Is it going to be law enforcement? Who's it going to be? And so you kind of go through that phase all the time. So I don't ride Space Mountain anymore.
I bet. You mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I have to believe obviously this impacts you, your entire family, all your friends, your whole circle on so many different levels.
Yes.
Mentally, emotionally, spiritually,
Yes.
and certainly financially we talked about. How
Yes.
did you navigate all of these different things?
Very difficult. You find people that were your best friends that now all of a sudden won't talk to you. You find people that you haven't heard from in 2 years that call you on the phone and say, "Oh, I went through something similar to this. I know what you're dealing with." You find that Facebook is the most evil place in the world at times. Thankfully, she is had a Christian background and faith, which has been strengthened significantly through this. She has found a level of peace through Jesus that she had not experienced before. And I think we all relied on that. And I relied on that too. And the biggest thing it probably changed in my life is I see people completely different now than I saw them 3.5 years ago. I would have stepped over somebody on the sidewalk and said, well, they ought to quit drinking, and kept going. And now you see them much different than that. There's something more than just laying there having a drink, and it affects you. And so, yeah, it affects everything. It literally changes everything in your world.
So obviously we're coming at this story from your perspective, your experience. This is your
Mm-hmm.
baby who is facing not only jail time, but also the knowledge that she's responsible for someone's death. It was a big
Yes.
story in the news in Central Florida. It was widely reported that, she was well above the legal limit of alcohol when she was driving. She was driving very fast.
Yes.
Speeding in a place where she should not have been speeding. So how do you sort of handle that or reconcile that as a dad? Because you're team Amanda, that's your daughter, but at the same time, you're like, wait a second, she did all of these things. How do you handle that?
Well, it's one thing that she never denied it. She accepted it from day one that she had done it. She had done wrong. For a few minutes, I wanted to kill her. But then I realized she's my daughter, and no matter what she had done, I'm there for her. And we have all made mistakes, probably not that serious, but we have probably all driven a car at times that we should not have driven a car. And whether we were lucky or whether it was God's hand on us or whatever it was, every one of us have done similar things. and been fortunate enough to either, certainly to not, for somebody to be dead, but we could have easily wrecked the car or done any of those kind of things, been arrested. So it was difficult, but you just have to find that into yourself to realize she's your daughter, and I love her. She made a mistake, but we have to go on. Some of the most rewarding times that we've had have been after that, because we have been we communicate on a much deeper level than we ever did. I go visit her. She's in Ocala, so she's only a little over an hour away. And I go one weekend and her mom goes one weekend. So we've played more checkers in the last 2.5 years than I've played in my life. And you don't think about checkers as being something you look forward to doing, but it is.
What was it that you found to be the most frustrating while you were trying to navigate the justice system?
Bureaucracies, and that's plural. Each agency and organization was a total bureaucracy, and no bureaucracy talked to the other bureaucracy. Even though they might be in the same building together, they never talked to one another. So you'd get handed from one to another, and this one wouldn't even know you existed. And they all operated differently. They all had their own terminology. They all had their own procedures, a way to get through it. And it was just frustrating to go from one to the other, and not knowing how to approach it. And there were people that, as you can imagine, some people were very helpful. Some people were trying to hang up on you before you called. So you had to keep finding a door to get into until you found one that opened.
What do you wish that you had known that could have helped the process for you and your family? The list is so long, I'm sure.
That you want a 2-hour answer on that one? I think the thing I wish I'd have known is, or had a place to go to is, well, first, if I could back up and prevent it from happening. But once it happened, if there had been some place I could go to and say, okay, these are the steps you're going to face. This is what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, who you're going to deal with, and so forth, then I could have been better prepared to handle it. And that's essentially what we do with our organization now, which, by the way, was Amanda's idea. Is we lay out on our website and on our Facebook site and so forth what the justice system looks like. And that means from the time the police first question you all the way until the time you get out of jail if convicted. And how do you find an attorney, and how do you deal with a district attorney, and how do you deal with the court system, which my version of the court system was Perry Mason. You go into court and you have a case and that's it. It's not like that. And first of all, let me say I'm very supportive of law enforcement. I think the city of Daytona Beach Shores Police Department did everything right. I have talked to the police chief personally several times after this was over, and we have become, I won't say friends, but acquaintances. They did things right. But had I known what they were doing, we could have helped Amanda get through that process better. So it's just having the knowledge to get through the process is part of it. I can't imagine if I'd have been at NASCAR, if I'd have been back at the Department of Energy, I couldn't have done it because I couldn't have stayed on the phone 12 hours a day. If I'd have had this roadmap, I could have probably stayed on the phone 2 hours a day and gotten it done. But it's very complex, and even attorneys, you think, well, the attorneys will tell you everything. The attorneys don't know the whole process. They know their process in the court, but they don't know what happens in prison, and they don't know what happened in mental health facilities and all of those kind of things. So just having somebody there, the financial was terrible. The emotional and mental was worse. And that was tough. And I don't want to sound like I'm just focusing on me, because I'm not. Mr. Larson's family had a whole different set of circumstances from a different situation, because he's no longer there. And so that side should not be ignored either. Now, I think there are more resources to help the victims than there are the accused. But yeah, when you start looking at how many people become affected with something like this, it's incredible.
Do you feel a little bit like when you started the alliance, it was maybe a little bit of penance or sort of, a way to make up for what Amanda had done?
Um, the thing Amanda said to me within the first week is she said, Dad, I don't know how we do it, but we have to make something good out of this. So we didn't know what. I didn't know what. About that time, I was far enough in it that I had decided I was going to start with law enforcement, and I was going to turn everything upside down from that all the way through prison, the state legislature, and everything else. Well, you find out pretty quick you can't do that. But I don't know if it was that as much as it was she had done something wrong and she wanted to try to repay people for what she had done. And during the time, from the time she got out of the mental health facility up until the day she went to prison, which was 8 or 9 months, she was out talking to people every day about what she had been through. She went to the drug alliances and the AA meetings and all of those kind of things, sharing her story. And so that's what we wanted to do, is share the story, but in a way to help people, certainly not to ignore Mr. Larson. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about him, even though I never met him. But if we can keep somebody else from doing this, then it'll be worth it.
You share a statistic on your website that says 1 in every 3 citizens are arrested at some point in their
Yes,
life, which seems like such a crazy statistic.
I
And 1
know.
in 19 serves time in prison.
That's right.
So, did that play into then your ultimate goal with creating this support alliance?
Yes, because what I did then is everywhere I would go, I would count off me and 2 more people and say, which one of us is it? And then even 1 in 19, that's not a lot of people. I mean, that is a lot of people. And you think about, okay, if you go to church on Sunday morning and there's 190 people there, 10 of them have been to prison, and statistically, not necessarily those. And then you realize that as you get further into it, it's not just the people that live in the hood or the people that are uneducated. It's everybody. Everybody is affected, and it can happen to anybody. And most people don't wake up in the morning and think, okay, I'm going to go out and do this, but it happens by whatever case it is. So I'm thinking, this many people are affected. We've got to try to get some help. And we could not find anybody that basically took the system from the start to the finish. We could find people that would tell you how to handle mental health or tell you how to handle the district attorney, but nobody really outlined the entire system.
You've mentioned the motorcyclist a couple of times by name.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in touch with his family?
Unfortunately, he had no living relatives. I have been in contact with his friend here in town that they live together, and who coincidentally served prison time for a similar incident. Very understanding, very empathetic, and actually prayed for Amanda when I met him the first time. So unfortunately for Mr. Larson, he had no relatives. So he was in his mid to late 60s, close to my age, and just was retired and basically rode his motorcycle. That was, his big thing.
How is Amanda now?
Amanda is a completely different person. She is much more sensitive. She's much more spiritual. She has matured in so many ways, mentally and emotionally, and she's become a different person. She has managed to navigate through almost 3 years now of prison, which is not easy. So she went into a new world, not knowing what to expect. And she's navigated herself pretty well through there. She's become a leader, if you will. She's taught several classes. She's been teaching a class recently that everyone that leaves prison is required to take. It's a 100-hour course on how to survive once you get out. And it includes things like what's a credit card. There are people that have been in prison long enough that they do not know what a cell phone is. I mean, so it's not a good place, and it's not some place I would ever send anybody, but she's done well. She's done and in fact, if anybody wants to go to our website and look, there's a number of letters on there that she's written since she's been in there talking about her experiences. And
What do you say to those people who think they're fine to drive and they get behind the wheel after having too much to drink?
call me. I've told every one of my friends, call me. I'll come get you. I don't care if you've had one drink or 10. Uber, Lyft, don't do it. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. You're playing the odds, and you might get home safe and everybody be fine, but it takes one mistake and your life will be changed forever. And fortunately for me, Amanda could have been on the other end of that. It could have been her that was gone. And so I'm thankful that we still have her. I will say, I'm going to brag one time here and that's it. I drank before. I have not had one drink of alcohol since April 22nd, 2022. When your daughter looks at you in the hospital and says, Dad, please don't drink anymore, you got it. And I didn't go through a 12-step program. That's it.
I know this is not the reinvention you chose, but
No.
you took the circumstances that were handed to you and you created this whole new you as a nonprofit leader and dad to a prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel, I mean, you kind of mentioned it already, you're sort of taking this bad situation and trying to use it for good. Do you feel like that's possible?
Oh, I think it's possible. I think the job is way bigger than I can do because there are so many people that can get into this situation and not even realize it. And just other things, just like, you're driving your car in front of the school and a kid runs out in front of you and you run over them. You may be driving 10 miles an hour, but that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. Maybe criminally, maybe not, but it's still going to affect you. So it's just the way something like that can change and change everything in your entire world.
What does the future hold for you and for Amanda?
Well, I want to continue doing this. I love to speak. So if any group is listening, I'll come. If it's 2 people or 2,000 people, doesn't matter. Love to tell the story. I don't charge anybody for anything. Everything goes straight into trying to help people, and that's the way we'll continue it as long as I'm there. Amanda goes back and forth about what she wants to do when she gets out. The last thing she told me is she wanted to get a sailboat and disappear for a year, but I don't know how that'll work. But she's a very gifted writer and speaker, and if she decides she wants to do that, she'll be able to do that. And she's written some amazing letters and papers and so forth since she's been there, which are just I'm saying, who did that? Is that you?
Chris Boals, thank you for being here, for being a guest on my podcast. If people want to know more about you or the Family Justice Support Alliance, where can they find you or follow you?
Yes, our website is www, and then it's Family Justice Support Alliance. I know that's long.com. We also have a Facebook.
Well, I know your story of reinvention is going to encourage so many others. So Chris Boals, again, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Amy. I appreciate it.
So, what about you? Were you moved by Chris's story of courage, honesty, and his willingness to turn an unimaginable tragedy into purpose? Life can change in an instant in ways we never could have imagined or planned for. Reinvention isn't always something we choose. Sometimes life just demands it of us. And in those moments, it can feel like everything you've been working toward has been taken away. But even then, especially then, there is room for growth, purpose, and meaning. When you reinvent yourself, it doesn't mean you forget who you were before or what you've been through. It means you use those past experiences and choices and circumstances, perhaps beyond your control, to shape the new you. Allow the pain, circumstances, and even loss to give rise to something that matters. Whether you want to reinvent yourself or you have to reinvent yourself, remember, reinvention is possible. Go make it happen for you today.